Hi, everybody. Welcome to our channel, Scientology Peeling the Onion. My name is Mark Fisher, and I'm here with my co-host, Janis Gillham Grady. Hey, Janis.
Hey, Mark. Good day, everybody. We are doing our last of a series with John McLean, who has been a very popular guest. And let's just bring him right on and get into the meat of things.
Hold on. I have a couple things I want to say first before we get started. Anyway, I just want to welcome everybody to the channel, right? Number one. Number two, I posted in the community billboard on our YouTube channel for our Peeling Masters, which is our membership, the people who are Peeling Masters, and only the Peeling Masters can see it. It's a community post, but I need you to contact me, and I put in my email address, which is messengerondutymf@gmail.com. So if you would check your community board, there's a little post there. We've got something for you. And I would appreciate it if you would email me. You'll see it when you see the community post. If not, if you can't find it, then what you can do is just email me at messengerondutymf@gmail.com, and I'll let you know. This is good news. This is something good, something you're going to like. So anyway, so please email me and or see that community tab, posting that I did, and that's going to help you. You'll know exactly what it is. And so anyway, we appreciate your support. We appreciate all of our channel members support as well. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that before we get into the guts of what we're doing. And we're going to cover. We've got more stories and information that we want to cover with our guest. So go ahead, Janis. You want to introduce him?
Yeah. Now, John's been very popular, so I'm happy to have him back. So let's welcome John.
Hey, John, how you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks, Mark and Janet, both of you.
So thanks for coming back on.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you tell great stories, very informative, very historical. People are enjoying them, and we're happy to have you back because we have more to talk about.
Yes, well, lots more, but we'll go with what we do today.
Okay, where we left off last time, I think we were talking. You just testified in Clearwater, and also you were talking. There's Misha. Hold on one sec here, Janis. Anyway, yes. You were talking about testifying in Clearwater with the mayor in 77 and 78, and I didn't know if you have a story that you want to carry on with around that time period or whatever you'd like to talk about.
Well, sure. Actually, I didn't testify at those hearings. I testified or came and tried to tell the community on the invitation of Gabe Cazares, the mayor, about what was really happening in Clearwater long before those hearings. And this was
that's what I meant. I meant the ones in 77 or whatever, not the ones in 82. Those were different.
Okay. So Mom and I went down, and we were actually this is one of the areas where Scientology did more of their harassment. We went down, and they knew we were coming, and because it had been advertised in Clearwater. The plane that we were to ride down on had a bomb threat.
Yeah, you told us about that.
Oh,
yes.
Did.
Yeah, you did.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay, I'll forget about that.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Move forward. Okay, I did tell you about the fact that we were on stage, and there were many Scientologists in the audience, and a lot of Clearwater residents who were concerned about the impact that Scientology might have on the community. And we talked about Operation Normandy, which was basically a whole plan, which is now, when I look at the reality of the acquisition of property, it's almost come to fruition, where Scientology owns so much downtown property. So we tried to warn the community that this was going to happen. Got on stage, we were harassed by booing and yelling in the crowd. And Jerry Armstrong, who had been a friend, I mentioned this before as well, came up to the stage, and he engaged me in, well, McLean, you're a thief and a liar. And he later said that if he'd had a gun, he would have shot me if he'd been told to. But the whole hearing at that point in time surrounded how Scientology infiltrates a community. And to that point in time, it had been done to a T. I mean, it was just like clockwork, like most of Scientology programs were. The people on mission, as they called it, did exactly the written requests of Hubbard and whoever initiated the mission itself. So effectively, they were to take control of the whole downtown area over a period of time. And Gabe Cazares, who had invited us, basically took an awful lot of flack from Scientology, of course, because he had invited us down. And we weren't the only ones that came down, but Bob Snyder, one of the local radio guys, had also asked us to come down. We had already done an interview with CTV, W5 show. So that's how it became known that we had some knowledge of Scientology. We came down. Our motivation was obviously to continue to tell the truth about Scientology, and a real concern that it might be possible that Scientology could actually take control of Clearwater.
It was a small enough town, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And part of their written plan was to infiltrate the local government.
Mm-hmm.
And, effectively, I don't know whether they've done that. Thank God there's a great man on council now. And
yes, I should mention
Yeah.
Mark Bunker, who's on the Clearwater City Council or City Commission, whatever it is. He's actually up for re-election, and I think the election's coming up very shortly. So if you do live in the Clearwater area, make sure you get out and support Mark Bunker, because he does great work, and he's basically helping to defend the citizens of Clearwater against the what David Miscavige wants and Scientology wants in that area.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, he's being harassed in his own campaign. Not all, but most of his campaign signs keep getting stolen. And
right.
Who might
and they're being stolen from yards where people have put them and want him and are voting for him.
Yes.
So,
but that's their tactic. They use everything they can do to harass anybody that speaks out against them.
Right.
They use the law to harass. I mean, so many of us and other people have been sued so many times because that's their process. They use the law to harass. They have a policy on that.
right.
And it was written, my God, it was written in the 70s, Janis, when we were on the ship.
Yes.
And clearly, you were probably privy to some of the discussion around some lawsuits from time to time, but naturally had to hold your tongue.
Yes.
But nonetheless, from the visit to the actual community meeting that we went to, there was a huge series of articles that were written about Scientology, their history, and outlining, as we saw it at least, their desire to create a sphere of influence, which is part of Hubbard's policies, written. It's all part of the seized documents, exactly what they were doing in Clearwater. And documents received in '83, I believe, in an IRS raid in Washington. And they have to have a good reason to move in and seize documents. Well, they did have a good reason, because these guys had tried to infiltrate not only the Clearwater City Council, but the IRS themselves, the FBI, CIA, and there was a Ms. Ross. What's her first name?
Ross?
Yes, her last name is Ross. She's been writing a lot.
Oh, Val
Valerie
Ross. She's writing for Tony Ortega.
Yes.
Right. And Tony's, obviously getting the information out that she was one of the people that actually infiltrated the IRS.
Yeah.
I think it was IRS, not FBI. one or the other. I think it was the FBI.
It's the FBI. And also Merrill Veneer talks about that too in his book, Arrows of the Dark, of him applying for work with the FBI.
Right. But we had Merrill Veneer was actually at the meeting that we went to in Clearwater, was one of the Scientology people in the audience. And but while we were there in Clearwater, one of the things that was done is our lawyer's office was broken into there by the Church of Scientology, again documented, and they've done that virtually to many people who are antagonistic towards Scientology or want to tell the truth.
Right.
One of the things Hubbard used to say, I think, was the fact that look at the attacker, and there's never an attacker who we can't find out a lot of bad things about. Those weren't his exact words, but that's what he wrote. I think an attacker who was not reeking with crime, if memory serves, was what he wrote.
John?
So, yes.
John? Yeah, just to go over a point, something you mentioned, that book is it by Merrill Veneer, Janis? The Arrows. Yeah, somebody asked in the chat before, where is that book available still, or somebody can buy it somewhere, or do we know?
It should be available on Amazon or eBay.
Tell briefly, what is that book about? Is it Merrill Veneer's memoir?
Yes, it is. And Merrill Veneer was he became an attorney while working for the GO or as a staff member, and then he became part of the GO and he infiltrated the mayor's office. And also, you talk about the attorney's office that was being infiltrated, and they were going in and stealing materials from it. He talks about working for the janitor, and as a janitor, he would let the other guardian's office person in, who would then go through the files and get what he wanted while Merle's off cleaning away, and then he'd go back and let the guy back out. So that's covered in this book. So there's all sorts of different unethical espionage type behavior in this book. And I think you can get it on Amazon or eBay.
You can get
Arrows in the Dark. Arrows in the Dark, right?
Arrows in the Dark, a true story of espionage and intrigue from the Church of Scientology #1 spy.
Okay.
Well, again, Scientology, as we know, had spies in virtually every government office. Clearly, Mr. Gazaris, his office, but everything from all of the major agencies, FBI, CIA, IRS, and they knew part of what the IRS was going to try and do to them when they were asking for tax exemption status, which they didn't have at the time. But they do now, unfortunately, and God knows we have to work hard to get that lifted on them, because they've got billions of dollars worth of assets in buildings, but that's all.
Yeah, and just so our viewers know, they had spies in City Mortgage. They had spies in my life. They had spies in other people's lives. They have spies in different people in California when the Advanced Ability Center was set up. I mean, they use that tactic all the time. They take somebody that you quote unquote know or trust or might trust, and they're completely a double agent. They go in there to hey, what are you doing? How's it going? And then they're just reporting back to you. I mean, they go to parties, right, Janis?
And they go to parties. But, there was a friend of mine from the Sea Org days who, when he reconnected with us, he told me that there was an 8-year period he was undercover in what Scientology calls a squirrel group. It was Ernie Martin's group of independent Scientologists. And this guy was there for 8 years reporting on Ernie and everyone who came to Ernie for auditing or audited in that group. And then after 8 years, he finally went back into Scientology, but he was still a Scientologist, but 8 years he was undercover.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it's amazing because in all likelihood, they're still there.
Exactly.
And that's what the agencies and government groups need to be aware of.
You're right.
Mhm.
A tiger doesn't change his stripes.
None.
If they did it then, they're doing it now. They don't change from what Hubbard says to do. And
Right.
so you're right. If they did it then, they're doing it now. You
Right.
know, and it's really amazing. And again, they're tax exempt. This is not something a tax exempt religion should be doing. And if somehow we could get the IRS to take a look at some of the stuff, that maybe they could get rid of it, you know?
Yes. Yeah. Well, when you talk about infiltrating and using friendships, Mom allowed on more than one occasion people to come and live for a short period of time in her house, our house, in Sutton, Ontario.
And your mother is Nan McLean, so our viewers would
Yes.
know. Yeah.
And again, she trusted them implicitly, and
Mhm.
and you know, she loved dealing with people who spoke out. They ostensibly said they were speaking out. Most of them weren't. There was one gentleman who was going to file an affidavit. Walter Curry was his name. And he told Mom he was going to do the affidavit. He went to his job site at work, and he worked for one of the forestry ministries, and he died in a tent fire.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now, Mother, to her own death, believed that because he was working with Mom, that there may have been a connection.
Yeah.
But it was never proven. Anyway, but that was one of the things that plagued Mom for the rest of her life. And one of the reasons of her being a driving force in trying to get people out of Scientology, which she did. She was a crusader. You had the picture there earlier, Mark, I believe, of Mom at one of many protests that she, yes, there it is. And who's in front? Mom. And
Right.
And that's the anonymous protesters, right?
right.
And how old was she then?
She, I think, was 90.
90?
Yes.
Okay. Because I think it was around that time when my books came out, and she personally wrote me thanking me for my books and really having enjoyed them. So I appreciated hearing from her.
Well, I actually bought the books and read them first and gave them to her. And she was fascinated because, there was much in your books that I had never talked about life on the Apollo, working for,
Right.
and it's a true insight into how it worked, but it's also an insight to the fact that you yourself were a child slave.
Exactly. And when I'm there, I don't even think of that. But it's like later on, as I'm peeling my onion, is when I realize, yeah, I was a child slave.
You were. And
yeah,
that's what a lot of people, and your book is so revealing of what happens with young people in Scientology. Your books too. Hopefully you're going to have the third one out soon. But it totally reveals. I mean, you were 12, I believe, when you went on the ship.
11.
11. God. Okay.
Yeah.
And here you are in an important position, groomed as a Hubbard's messenger, an aide,
Mhm.
in effect. And and you scared the heck out of a lot of us. I've mentioned that before because you're well, it's true. You were the word of Hubbard. So when you came down the corridor and we're looking for somebody, it's like, uh-oh, I hope it's not me.
Yeah, everyone would watch. Where's she going? Who's getting the message run?
Yeah. So and obviously we all talked about the message run and afterwards, quietly,
Yeah.
of course. But again, you at 11, and people nowadays, one of the big things is trying to make sure that Scientology isn't allowed to take children and make them become members of the cult, because and they're doing it. People are buying in and bringing young children in, and then the same thing that happened to you, their parents are all of a sudden gone.
Exactly. Well, yeah. And I even hear of kids, they're 14, 15 years old, and they join the Sea Org and they get a legal guardian. Well, that's, pardon my French, but crap.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
it's that guardian does nothing. It's just a piece of paper so that they could get a recruitment stat for the week and have their stat up by 2:00 and get a liberty, if they have liberties.
If they did, yeah. There weren't many liberties. You wrote about some nice ones in your books, but there weren't many liberties. We worked pretty hard, 16 hours a day sometimes.
Yeah.
And, we were run ragged, and everybody still that's in Scientology, they are being run ragged, and
they are.
But they believe. And here's one of the things I wanted to mention before and hadn't. And until you're exposed to some of the higher level, what I now call total crap, of auditing, you don't know. You don't know how crazy the organization really is, and how
right, because it's confidential. Meaning that nobody knows in Scientology till you get to those levels.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you're not getting auditing and going through much of their processing, you don't have access to that. You don't know what's happening. So you're still blindly working. Many people who eventually got up into the higher levels of Scientology auditing realized, oh my God, what is this? Do I really believe this? And quite a number jumped ship or left the organization when they were exposed to that. Although by then, many of them are so indoctrinated. Again, many young people getting involved because of altruistic feelings. And, I was one of those guys, one of those.
Yeah.
Well, something I noticed as a kid on the ship, and that was people, when they got up to OT3, seemed to get in trouble.
Yes.
And they got in ethics trouble. Something would be happening with them, and they'd get busted from post, or, that type of thing. And I used to wonder about that. And I was like, I could see people having wins on the lower levels and doing well, and they change their whole personality, where you can see them taking more and more responsibility in life. But then once they hit that OT3 level, it was like you watch them crash and burn. And that even happened to myself when I hit OT3.
Okay. And
go ahead, John.
Was it a crisis that you were facing, that is this real or am I crazy?
Well, that does go through your head, but in my position, you don't want to say anything because you're going to get in trouble for speaking out and saying something that is against the belief.
Yes.
Yeah, and as somebody pointed out on another video or whatever, and I totally agree with this, you'd be working with people that were like on their upper OT levels, OT7, OT8, whatever, and it didn't have, and their job performance was not really up to par. So the OT levels had nothing to do with your ability to do your job. If you were a musician, it didn't make you a better musician. If you practiced your instrument, that would make you a better musician. Or if you just had natural ability, it didn't change your ability to do your job. And so, if you're down lower on the, Scientology spectrum, and you're looking at these people, you go like, I thought they were supposed to get better.
Well, I found bad things happened to me that were outside of my control, where having got up to that level, I should have been more in control of what's going on around me. But instead, I'm I get assigned the RPF. It's like just all sorts of different things happening.
Yeah, and I tell this story before. I'm not going to use the person's name because I don't want to. I don't know if they're watching that. I don't even know if they're even still alive. But I got assigned to mimeophiles in Clearwater in 1978 or 76. Sorry, you know what I mean, in Clearwater, right? And I was in there with a woman who was the mimeophiles in charge, right? And I was just green in the Sea Org, and I'd done grade 4, and I was 17 years old. And we were talking, and I'm filing stuff away. And I said, "Oh, how long have you been in here?" "Oh, I work here, for a few years now." And I said, "Well, what's your case level?" And she goes, "Oh, I'm OT3." And I'm thinking to myself, OT3 and you're filing papers? I said, "I've made a mistake. What am I doing here?"
Oh my! Wow, that's amazing.
If I told you the name, John, you would probably knew her on the ship. And
I
Janis knows
believe
who I'm
I know
talking about.
who you mean.
Yeah.
Nice.
But I literally went, "Oh, she was great." But I was just like, okay, I thought you're supposed to get more of it able to do things than just filing paper,
Yeah, and again, when we talk about the people that are not in control in Scientology, then in the beginning, on the ship and throughout the world in the early days, and I'm talking the late 60s, early 70s, they didn't know half of what was happening, of course. And, for their enemies, they were sending shark teeth and nooses by the mail into people that were talking out against them. Lorna Levitt in Calgary, Alberta, she had that happen a couple of times. And, of course, Paulette. Again, even people in higher levels of responsibility still didn't know what was happening. And although all of those policies were written down, everything they did was written down. And, in Paulette Cooper's situation, they were serious things that happened to her.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
I was
I think
charged myself a couple of times because one Scientologist tried to file a complaint that I had physically accosted her outside the Church of Scientology in Toronto. And I was also charged with harassment, which, again, none of it was true. But it's for those people when you're so indoctrinated, and the truth sometimes may be hard to swallow, but you want things to go right. You're that convinced that if they don't go right, then you're not doing something right.
Right. It's always your fault.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
And that's how they control a lot of people, really.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And I remember if I ever hurt myself, I'd then wonder, well, what did I do to pull this in?
Yeah.
Right.
Or even getting ethics trouble when I don't think I did anything. It's like, what did I do to pull this in?
Yeah, and that's a common one because you're like, all of a sudden you're in trouble and you're going like, what did I do? It makes no sense. I mean, and then Miscavige was anybody who ever dealt with Miscavige, you know what I'm talking about. But all of a sudden he'd be cross with you over something, and then he wants you to figure out what it is he's cross about. Do you know what I'm talking about, Janis? I don't know, sir. What are you cross about? Please tell me. You know what I mean? It's like, what am I in trouble for? He wants you to guess and figure it. You should know. Okay, I don't know what you're thinking.
But Miscavige in today's Scientology has taken it way too much further on. I mean, he's a nasty, nasty bill of goods. I mean, Hubbard didn't physically, well, actually he did. He came up and yelled at people and screamed, but not in the same way Miscavige did.
Right.
With the RPF, Janis, was it you that was the first person in RPF or one of the first, that was forced to run around the tree?
Oh, that wasn't in the RPF, but I was the first person to run around the tree because, there was no tree at the time. Yeah, there was no tree at the time. Okay. I was the first person the advice was on to have run, and that's like, okay, where do I run to? Well, someone pointed out I should have just kept running and be gone rather than, okay, and I keep coming back.
Yeah, we just did a video on that last week about the running program. Yeah.
Did you? Okay. And
Yeah.
were you ever in that, Mark?
Oh yeah, because then it was required that if you went to the RPF or the Rehabilitation Project Force at the time, and you were from the international, headquarters, hidden, that you had to complete the running program before you could graduate the RPF. So I was on it for 51 days, and in Griffith Park in California. But if anybody wants to see the full details, just watch our video. I'll put it in the description down below. We just did it last week on the origins of the running program, which they now sell to the public as the Cause Resurgence Rundown. And it's on the top floor of the building across the street from the Fort Harrison Hotel, in a dome that you can't see, and they have to run around a pole in the middle of that, and you'd never would know that they were there running.
Yeah. Now, since we did that video, I was told that in that dome it's completely dark except the pole is lit up, and then they run around the pole in the dark.
See, that's one of the things I don't understand now, why people still stay in when they are subject to that kind of treatment.
Because they think that they're gonna get their cause resurged.
Yes.
But that's
this is some new breakthrough, a part of superpower. I got to do it, and I'm going to get my cause resurged.
And none of them know that the reason that program came out originally was because I was so disaffected.
Oh my.
And John, and it goes further than that. It's something that Hubbard just told people that when they died, this is before he died, right? That when you die, go find an asteroid or a planet or something and run around the planet or asteroid, because it's going to help you. That was his research at the time. The idea was that you ran around this pole and you would spin off incidents and different things, and you would have this realization. And I did it, and people have told me it's a runner's high, but it was, I had to do it 51 days. It was a long time, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Running.
Yeah. Run to exhaustion, then walk. Run to exhaustion, then walk. You could take a break, but then there was a supervisor tell you to keep running, and that was it.
Yeah.
You had to keep your attention on the pole while you were running around it. And it was acting like a negative and a positive pole, and the theory was it was like a generator spinning things off. It's crazy, but that's what we did.
Well, it sounds crazy, but again, it's part of mind control.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I believe that I had to do it because first of all, it was a requirement if I wanted to get out of the RPF. Yeah. But I actually started getting wins from it. I felt great. You get in good shape and you're outdoors, and there's a lot of positives. You're not on your post being yelled at.
True. Actually, being on the RPF sometimes was better because you got to sleep at least.
Well,
yeah, we
got
8 hours sleep at night. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Paul used to say that. He said life was better on the RPF because he got 5 hours of study and he got his whole sleep, and he found that he was getting his auditing and going up the bridge, which he couldn't get when he was a staff member.
Yeah. Well, again, we all believed we were doing the right thing, and
exactly.
People in it at the lower levels still believe that, and we still have to treat them as human beings and recognize that yes, we were brainwashed, and so are they, obviously.
John, I wanted to move on. I want to show this picture, and I want to ask you a question. Okay, this is your mother here, right, with John Atack, correct?
Yes, that's at the Toronto recording of Going Clear. There was.
Oh, okay. When the movie came out.
Yes, there were two actually produced. One, I believe, was in L.A. and the other was in Toronto. And in Toronto, Jerry Armstrong, we got to reunite with Jerry, with Hannah. It was a really nice Spike, really nice time to be able to reminisce with people that we did care for, but lost touch with. And
right now, I wanted to ask you. People have asked in the comments, on your videos and stuff like that.
Yes.
Janis, you probably know better than anybody. But how is Jerry Armstrong doing? And they keep asking, can we get him on our channel?
Well, I'm in touch with Jerry. Jerry used to be my brother-in-law, but so we're in touch, and he is still under attack. They have a restraining order. He can't come to the US, or if he does, I guess they'll try and arrest him or something for made up charges. But Jerry's a very decent guy, and he's just being honest about what he saw, and he's being honest about what they're doing to him. And, even though they did a settlement and he got paid for the settlement, a very low amount of money, they still continue the fair game after the settlement. So they didn't abide by their side.
They never did.
They being OSA and the Guardian's what was the Guardian's office. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he'd like to come on, but he's got to be comfortable. I mean, it's difficult, just for our viewers to know it. When you're under that kind of attack, it's very difficult to put your face out there and have somebody take a swing at it. So we understand, and Janis is in touch with him, but he's doing okay. He's doing okay though, right?
Yeah, he's doing fine. Yeah.
Okay, that's good to hear. I haven't been in touch with him in 2015 actually, when we did the program, the Going Clear.
Yeah, check your emails. I think I sent you his contact.
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes. Now I want to go back to this photo. How old is your mother here? This is Nan McLean with John.
In 2015, she would have been 70.
2015 is 9 years ago.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay. 9 years.
Yeah. So 80.
Whoa.
No, she live?
She was 90.
She lived to be 90.
Died in 2019. So she
would have been like 80, 87.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Very, very young looking and had a lot to say right up until her death. She helped so many people from a counseling standpoint, what she asked for was only that her trip would be paid for, people that wanted her to help get a relative out or come and meet with them and get them to figure out how they should deal with people in Scientology, as well as people who actually were having second thoughts themselves, or their folks just wanted them out.
Now that was a question I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned it before. Over the years, she would actually help people. They call it deprogramming. I mean, that's kind of a negative term, but basically she would help people realize that they'd made a mistake and they needed to get out. Is that correct?
That's correct. But she used documentation from Scientology itself to show those people that it isn't like you think it is. Here's what happens when you move up the chain. And these are the horrible things they're actually doing within the world.
Like what examples? Like what you mean? Like she would confront them with the fact that they were spying on everybody and infiltrating offices and things like that. So it was things that they were doing, like in the Guardian's office and Office of Special Affairs, things like that.
Right, and she had all the documentation to show it. That's the important thing.
Yeah.
Again, she got in trouble for that because she and Paulette Cooper worked hours and hours, so many hours and so many weeks, copying the FBI files that were gotten in the raid, which was legal at the time. Now you can't get those documents. They are locked up again. So.
Oh, why is that?
There was a challenge, and the bottom line is that whole rated information is sealed by the court right now.
Oh.
Now,
damn.
Like Snow White and all of that, that's still out there. Mom and Paulette found that documentation. Lorna Levitt was involved from Calgary as well. But now all of the copies that Mom had are in University of Alberta's basic wing about Scientology. Steve Kent, really wonderful man, professor.
Isn't he a professor? Yeah.
Yes, professor at University of Alberta. Wrote a couple of books, not the same kind of books that an ex-Scientologist might write, he wrote it very clinically. Anyway, he has virtually every one of those incriminating documents on file for anybody to see at the University of Alberta.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to mention this because what you said in my case was actually true when you were presented with the documents. Because, like, when you're in the mindset of the organization, when you're socked in and you're a true believer, you go, oh, come on, they're just lies, they're just lies, they're just lies. But when I read Russell Miller's book, Barefaced Messiah, which I just recently found out that John Atack was a researcher, and a lot of the book was based on stuff that he had provided to Russell Miller. And so they both, were instrumental in this. There were the things that turned me against Hubbard were some of the documents of things that he did in the early 1950s in regards to turning people into the McCarthy hearings in the U.S. government, accusing people who were his friends in Scientology and accusing them of being communists. At the time, there was the whole Red Scare, and it literally was a black mark on you. There were so many people that got labeled with that, and so I saw this vindictiveness from Hubbard that then kind of coincided with what I saw when I was in the Sea organization, when people like, David Mayo and Kerry Gleason and all these people that were good people,
yes,
were actually all of a sudden kicked out, declared, and excommunicated. And then I saw this whole pattern of Hubbard did this to just about everybody while I was reading the book that ever helped him. Don Purcell, the guy who invented the Matheson e-meter, you know what I mean? All these people,
yes.
They helped him and they supported him and they gave him money and this and that. And they were the greatest thing since sliced bread. But then as soon as he got upset with them or whatever, oh, they're traitors, they're communists, they're this, they're that. And I just saw this repeated pattern of him doing that because it fit with what I saw before I left in the Sea organization, and it turned me off to Hubbard. So it definitely works depending upon, the receptiveness the person is to get it. Now, I turned against Hubbard. Now, that didn't turn me against the gains that I'd had in Scientology, which people still disagree with me on this, but I don't really care. Yeah. I had counseling. I had gains from the things that I did that I still, to this day, I'm stable about. And, wherever Hubbard got it, if he stole it or he took something else or whatever, even if he created it himself, I'm not going to disown the positiveness changes that were made in my life from that counseling, right?
Yes.
I just disagree with the organization and the way and what we were trying to do because of that whole Guardian's Office, OSA, that whole arm, which made it very difficult to try and help people because they were out there committing crimes and, and keeping people under control and all that. And you don't realize you're in a mind control outfit until you get out.
Well, that's true. And that's one of the things that happened to Jerry Armstrong. If you guys remember, he was doing Hubbard's autobiography.
His biography,
not writing, but gathering all of his early information. And he saw that it was just a crock of lies in many cases.
And he wanted to correct them. He wanted Scientology to take responsibility for them and correct them.
Right.
And that got him completely in trouble with Miscavige and Norman Starkey and people like that. And then, it was like he's lower than dirt. You know what I mean? Right, Janis? I mean, then he took them. Then he left and he took them because he wanted to expose them. But he tried to correct them. And they were like, no, we're living with the lies.
He did. He tried to correct it internally and they wouldn't go with it. And that's when he went to the extreme of, okay, I'll correct it a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and hats off to him because he's been through an awful lot.
He's been through hell.
Yeah, and similar to...
But, it takes brave people like your mother, like yourself, like Jerry Armstrong. I'm not going to toot our horn, but, people who have spoken out over the years
toot your horn.
And have been under harassment.
You can toot it.
Yeah.
But, who have been harassed, who have had their lives disrupted, which we have had, and we're still standing, and we're still, have the guts to speak out. And like I said, I'm not tooting my own horn. It's just important that this happened, because there's people still trapped in there that are still in there that we care about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the other thing too. And I've said this before, but our show, and not just our show, the other shows on SPTV and stuff like that, getting the truth out on the internet, it's never going to go away. Right. Scientology can never get rid of this stuff. It's in the cyber universe. They could try and get YouTube to take this stuff down. It's on servers all over the world. You know what I mean? Yeah. So the truth is out there, and it's actually better than the archives project that Hubbard's doing, or that they're doing to store all of his stuff on titanium plates underground.
You're
but
right.
I never spoke out while I had my kids at home.
Right.
Because we had some
want to
scares.
Be targeted.
Yeah. We had some scares, and I remember calling the daycare and no one is to take my children, no one, because I was afraid Osa or someone might show up. But so I don't recommend if people have kids and they're afraid of being fair gamed and something happening. But once you've got nothing to worry about, it's go for it.
But again,
that's what Janis and I go, we're old, we're retired, come at us, because we got nothing to lose.
No, don't come at us.
Kids are grown, you know what I mean? It's I don't have any kids, and my mother's in great shape, and come at me, I don't care. I don't work anymore. I don't care about my reputation.
But Mark, there still might be some paid friends out there.
No, I understand that, but I'm just saying it makes it easier for us to do this at this point. Because you said, Janis, 30 years ago when we first left, we were just trying to get on our feet and start our life over. And they kept tripping us up. You know what I mean? Yeah. And, they tried to entangle me in lots of different things. And it's just a mess. But you know what? I'm still standing. We're still here,
But you see, one of the things that I respect you both for is that you aren't on the constant attack against the tech, per se, because some people do get help.
Right.
Certainly the lower level teachings of how to communicate are really effective, and obviously stolen from somewhere else, but nonetheless,
it doesn't matter. Yeah, no, exactly.
It doesn't matter.
Well, and that's the way I felt about it, John. Is nobody can take away the gains. We called them wins when I was in Scientology. I don't call them that now.
Right.
But the way I changed, I was a different person as a teenager. Everybody is, right? But literally, I could not be doing a show like this. I literally was not able to speak like this, And so getting through the communications course, getting through my grades, getting rid of any hang-ups I had on communication and problems and things like that, it just made my life so much easier, and I feel so much better. I don't suffer depression like a lot of people do, and I don't know if that came from Scientology or not, but I've been stable for a long time regarding that, right? But I like to say to somebody, it's look, there are people, nobody is perfect, including, especially L. Ron Hubbard, right? Nobody's perfect. But if something good happens from something, you know what I mean? If somebody, if somebody develops the cure for cancer, do you really care if he was a womanizer and had, 15 children on the side, if that cancer drug cures your cancer? You know what I mean? So not everybody believes the Scientology works, but there are a number of people that it has helped. And I don't want to discount that or invalidate that. We don't evaluate for people. We just lay the facts out there and let people decide for themselves.
Yeah, it's a personal choice, and you can choose to believe part, all, or none. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Right.
It's
right.
It's their. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's their faith. It's what they believe in.
Yeah.
And if it worked for them, who am I to tell them it doesn't work for them?
Yeah, but involvement of children.
Who have no choice in the matter. Yeah, that's not right.
And the policies they have about, you can't go to the police when somebody's raped, for goodness sake. I mean, that's insanity. And those.
No, I absolutely agree. Yeah. Yes.
And listen, and we also believe in that the children that were abused and grown up, absolutely, they deserve to have help and support. We completely agree with that. You know, I don't want anybody who needs help to not get help. You know, and the people who try to help, you know, God love them. You know what I mean? Because that's you're doing God. You know, you're doing good works, and I fully support that.
Yeah.
I know when I was in there, and there's times I thought of leaving, you're hesitant on doing that because, or even going to the police. You don't want to go to the police because that could ruin your eternity if you leave and you decide you want to go back.
Because
Which we did when we first left. We wanted to go back when Hubbard came back. You know, that's how we thought.
Oh, no, I didn't. I had my children. I was done. But
no, but you hadn't had your children yet. I remember having meetings where we were just like, well, we just need Miscavige to get out of here.
I mean, yeah,
talking to
that's
Paul and
right.
all that. And then, you know, it'll get sorted out after that. And at the time, look, that didn't last for very long. That viewpoint changed very quickly, but you're still a believer when you first leave. And that's why we call it peeling the onion.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we used to even joke about, and if we got a bus, we would have done it, of driving a bus up to the Gold Basin saying, come aboard.
Come on over. Yeah, come on. Get on. We'll take you out, you know.
But you were, I mean, most people who've gotten out of Scientology suffer. They suffer emotionally, mentally, PTSD. So, you know, whether you got positive gains is a good thing, and whether you use them still is a good thing, as long as they work for you. But the bad side of it is, you know, so many people are adversely affected from their involvement in Scientology.
Absolutely.
But if it wasn't Miscavige that was there, who would it be? I mean, Starkey would have done the same thing.
No.
Okay.
I don't think so. He was not as bad as Miscavige, and even Mark Yeager. Mark Yeager, when I worked for him, he was the best boss I had ever had. And if Miscavige wasn't there and Yeager had asked me to come back in those early days, I would have gone back to work with Yeager.
The only problem, Janice,
he was very good.
Thinking about it though, Janice, the only problem is that what's causing the trouble though is OSA. The existence of OSA after the Guardian's office created all these problems, and it didn't matter if Miscavige was there or not, because Hubbard said, "Oh, you got to have the options." That would have continued, and that's unfortunate, you know, because that's really what hurt a lot of people and a lot of things, you know.
Yeah, well, they took out the Guardian's office, who was committing all these crimes, and started OSA, Office of Special Affairs, as turning a new leaf, but then they hired all those same people back.
Yeah, it's like a restaurant. It's like a restaurant that fails, and they just change the name and keep the same people, but they're still serving the same food.
It's the same criminals.
Yeah,
and they're following every tiny bit of the same policy that Hubbard wrote. So
exactly,
I don't have kind thoughts about L. Ron Hubbard. He, in my mind, was a megalomaniac and writing some nasty stuff. Anybody, he could easily have worked for, you know, the CIA. For those that hate the CIA, for example, I mean, the CIA must do decent work too. But you know, he is a real anti-hero in my mind.
Yeah. Right. And I see it. I saw both the good and the bad, you know, and sometimes you see the bad and you go, well, wait a minute, that's not what he is preaching.
Right.
You know,
John, sorry, Janice, go ahead.
It's okay.
No, I was going to say, we've talked about this in the past, you know what I mean? Like, if you took the good parts, the things that actually help people, you know what I mean? And some people disagree that it helped them, but it helped a lot of people. Otherwise, why are all these people getting involved in the first place? Things like the communications course, like you said, you know, the lower auditing, the training routines, things like that, in terms of just communicating and all that. And you did repackaged it and just did seminars on that. and with no goal of, oh, you're going to spend a lot of money and do all this other stuff, right? And with no goal of, oh, you're going to be part of our group, it would have tremendous benefit for people. You know what I mean? Go ahead, Janis.
We can all agree that TRL works.
Oh, TR lying?
Yes, and it's used.
No, I'd never heard of that until you mentioned it. That's pretty crazy.
I haven't either.
Oh, well, there's a policy on how to lie.
Oh no, I know, but I said, like, I was like, wow, it's like crazy. I didn't know that, you know.
Yeah.
Training routine liar or lying.
Yeah.
And that's what's hard to get over when you first leave, because we were true believers. We wanted to help people. We weren't there to hurt people. We were there to help people. So losing that goal when we first left was, for me, very crushing, because all of a sudden nothing that I wanted, nothing work-wise or whatever, really gave me any satisfaction. You know what I mean? It took a while for me to get to the point where I was like, well, I need to start building my life and building my business and all that, because I thought I was just wasting my time doing something that wasn't valuable, you know? And I had to get over that. And that takes some time. And it's hard for some of these people who've left the Sea Org and left Scientology to get over that.
Yeah, that was one of Mom's biggest driving forces right up until she passed away, was I got people in. I've got to do my best to tell them the truth so they can make the decision on whether they get out or not.
Right. And you know what? That's the exact right viewpoint, because they have to make the decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you can't tell them you need to leave and then make them leave, because until the person has that thought that, like, you know what, you're right, I do need to leave, you're not going to make them leave, you know?
Yeah.
Right. No kidnapping allowed.
Well,
No.
good old Ted Patrick, Mom unfortunately got involved with him and she was actually going to be charged by the police
For kidnapping.
Yes. But she, to the amazement of Scientology, testified telling the truth about what Ted Patrick did, and he was found guilty. And they couldn't figure out, well, what is this crazy lady doing now, you know? And she wasn't crazy. She was doing her best to let everybody know the real bad side and let them make their choice. And she always, to her dying day, believed in freedom of choice and what Scientology would call, in the best word, beingness.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, good.
And that was her mantra. And she traveled all over North America doing counseling, went to all the protests that she could. She was with John Atack a number of times. Tony Ortega, great man as well. Without his starting of the underground, that really gave an opportunity for those that really wanted to get the truth out there. It gave them a chance. So
yeah, I will say for Tony, he has incredible knowledge for someone never being in, you know, and his memory on it and his understanding of it. It's amazing what he has accomplished.
Plus his stick-to-itiveness. I mean, literally, he's been doing this for years for no reason other than just he wants to get the truth out there. I mean, he really doesn't make anything out of this. You know, he's not getting rich doing this. He's just been sticking to it and telling the truth as he sees it and reporting it, you know?
Yeah.
Pretty amazing.
But and the harassment he's had as well. I mean, You talk about them nastily, and they're 10 times nastier.
Yeah.
But
well, bless your mother wherever she is, wherever you believe that she is. You know what I mean? She did tremendous work. Bless you too, John. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you coming on here and telling your stories. And we hope the viewers enjoy this and learn from it, you know, because we learn from it too. We're having a real honest and open discussion here between me, Janis, and John. And hopefully you guys benefit from it. I know I benefit from it. I learn stuff every time we do these things. And so anyway, we really appreciate you being here, John. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, and anything I can do to help anybody, I'm more than happy to do. I'm long ago retired, and I'm not looking for the same harassment that I had before,
Right.
and
No,
the
no.
mom suffered through, or Paulette, or Jerry, or any of these big guys and girls.
Right.
It's just, I want to help.
Yeah.
So, and
We all do.
you guys are peeling the onion, and you're doing it fairly, in my opinion. And there are some that aren't.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
So
Thank you, John.
Hats off to both of you, and look forward to talking to you in the future.
Okay,
Thanks.
great.
It's been
Well, let me
fun.
go ahead.
Thanks.
It's been fun, yeah. All right, so let me please, to our viewers out there, if you enjoyed this video and our other ones, we got lots of other ones, other interviews with John and other people. Please subscribe to our channel. Hit that like button. We really appreciate it. It helps get the message out to others. The YouTube algorithm grabs it and puts it out. So please subscribe to our channel. And if you have any questions or comments about what we've talked about today, please go in the comment section down below and go ahead and give us your opinion. We would love to hear it. And we appreciate any questions that come in there, and we will try and answer them as soon as we can. And then also, if you want to support our channel, you can buy me a coffee. Down in the description, there's a link. You just click on that link, follow it, and you can buy us a coffee, buy us 2 coffees, 3 coffees, whatever. The money that we get is not very much, but it goes into helping us put the channel and putting the shows on. So we really appreciate that. And then also, if you'd like to order, we talked about Janis's books. There's a link down below. You can click on it and get an autographed copy of Janis's book 1, and also an autographed copy of book 2 at our merchandise store. And we ship it in the United States. So please, if you're interested, you can order them there, and Janis will be happy to autograph them for you. And I think you'll enjoy them. They have photographs and great stories in more detail. Anyway, has anybody got anything else they would like to say before we end this recording?
On the books, just if you're in the non-US and you want my books, you can order them from Amazon. They won't be autographed, but they have a shipping that's much cheaper than what I can get.
That's right. That's right. And
they're a great piece as well. I mean, it's the truth.
And a reminder
Yes,
for our peeling masters, our members that are peeling masters, please send me an email at messengeronduty@gmail.com. We have something for you, and we'd like you to reach out to us. Anyway, until the next time, everybody, bye-bye. We'll see you.
Take care.